Shabbat Shalom. This past week, on New Year's Eve, I was home, obviously. I got little kids, I don't go anywhere. So I was home, I was just, I was on my phone, just kind of mindlessly, scrolling, on Instagram, just videos, the quick videos, reels, they're short. And a lot of them were videos kind of, New Year's Eve theme, who are you, who do you want to be, your goals for the year, that kind of a thing, And I got a little clip, it was a video actually from a podcast. Now I have to admit, I'm not a podcast type of person. If I'm going to be talked that, it's got to be in person. Then I can listen. And luckily this was a video of a podcast, so I actually paid attention. And the host asked the person being interviewed, what's your goal in life? What's the point? Very New Year's Eve theme, right? And the person being interviewed answered, well, I don't think the goal of life is to be comfortable. I thought that was an interesting thought, because I think most of us want to be comfortable, right? Don't we kind of go out of our way to be comfortable? And as I was laying there on my very comfortable couch in my nice soft PJs at 9 p.m. on New Year's Eve, wrapped in a blanket, sipping my sparkling cider, because if I start drinking champagne at 9, I will be passed out by 9:15, 100%. I have too many children and not enough sleep. So I'm sitting there, I'm getting all comfy and scrolling, and I think, well, what's wrong with being comfy? But he continued, he kind of explained, and this is where it got very interesting. He said, the goal of life is not to be comfortable. The goal of life is to grow. And we don't grow in comfort. We don't grow when we're comfortable. We grow when we are made uncomfortable, either by ourselves or by somebody else. That thought, that is a very Jewish thought. Because this week in the Torah, Jacob, our patriarch, he's on his deathbed. He's lived a very long life. He's accomplished a lot. He's had some very high highs, some very low lows too. And as he's laying there and he's drawing these kind of painful final breaths, he calls his sons. He says, "Hey, Sifu, v'agida lachem. Come together so I may tell you what is to befall you in the future." And he starts out very strong, and it just kind of snowballs from it. He really rips into them, actually. If you read those things he says to his sons, he lays into them. Reuven Behori, Reuben, my firstborn. Atakochi, very shioni, my might and first fruit of my vigor, exceeding in rank and honor. Kachatzkamayim, you are unstable as water, you will excel no longer. Ooh. Honestly, that's pretty tame compared to what he says to some of his other kids. Shimon v'Levi achim. Ooh. Simon and Levi are a pair. Their tools are weapons of lawlessness. Let not my person, he says, be included in their council. Let not my being counted in their assembly. Basically, their dad's saying, don't associate me with those guys. They're thieves, they're robbers, they're bad people. Those are his kids. Some things, he says, are praising the child, but also it's a little tempered praise. Gur Aryeh Yehuda, Judah is a lion's whelp. The scepter will not depart for him. The homage of people is his. Basically, he's going to be a leader. Keleviyah mikimenu, like a lioness, who dare rouse him? That's an interesting choice, like a lioness. That's an interesting choice. And Sforno, our commentator, says that means, yeah, he'll be, successful, very strong leader, but he'll also be kind of lazy. Like how male lions, they're not the ones who hunt, it's the lionesses who hunt. So it's kind of he's saying good things, but also a bit of a warning. Know this about yourself, he says. Some things he says to his sons are truly neutral. Zvulun lechof yamim. Zebulon shall dwell by the seashore. He'll be a haven for ships. That's all he says about Zebulon, poor guy. But at least it's not mean, like some of the other guys. And some of the stuff that he says to his sons is adoring, and you would expect it to be. Ben Koret Yosef. Joseph is a fruitful bough by the spring. Joseph's praise goes on for a long time. He's clearly the favorite child. But most of what Jacob says to his sons is mixed to, frankly, kind of mean. Dan shall be a viper in the path that bites the heels of horses. Okay, you want to say your kid is a strong animal, and you can pick other animals than a snake. There's other strong animals, and we Jews have taken a pretty dim view of snakes. You could have picked anything else. You know what I'm saying? Like, God Yagadur V'Yagudenu. It's very poetic. God will be raided by raiders. Our commentators don't even know what to make of that one. Ibn Ezra says, we don't know where Jacob's going with that, but it's not good. That's all he says. The point is, you would think, laying there on his deathbed, actively on his way out, why is Jacob taking the time to slightly, or frankly, muchly bully his sons? And the answer from our ancient rabbis is, of course, he's not. He's not doing that. Their answer to this seemingly very rough final conversation between father and sons is that it is tochacha. Jacob was teaching his sons, and so that means the Torah is teaching us, about tochacha. And tochacha is a very tricky word to translate, and people will tell you it means rebuke. I don't think that's an accurate translation because the rebuke sounds very negative. Do you want to be rebuked? I don't want to be rebuked. It's not negative. Tochacha is not negative. Tochacha is delivering constructive criticism. It's not praise per se, but it's more of an honest reflection of the other person and what they've been doing, and a suggestion for improvement. And they say in the Sifrei, which is this ancient biblical commentary, that Jacob's approach to his sons teaches us that there is actually a method for delivering tochacha, for critiquing another person. They say you can't go on and on, you can't harp on something, you can't nag another person. You say what you need to say, and you move on. They say that the goal is not to shame the other person, to leave the other person resenting you. They say because ultimately you want them to be able to listen to you, and if you nag them, they're not going to listen. The rabbis say that the ultimate goal of tochacha is that you both leave the conversation feeling peace with each other, because the person giving the critiquing, doing that critiquing, has to bring peace to the conversation, which means that if you're going to criticize someone, if you're going to give them constructive feedback, it has to come from a place of love. As much as I was being a little flippant at the start of this, I actually think that this whole concept and the story that teaches it is actually very beautiful. Because yes, Jacob says some things to his sons that are tough to read. But to be fair, some of his sons did some pretty naughty things. He would be a bad father if he did not attempt to course correct them. Think about it. Would it be more loving for him to let them continue down their path, to possibly make worse mistakes in the future? What kind of parent would he have been? What kind of parent are any of us if we just let our children make mistakes? Yes, once fine, that's important. You gotta make mistakes. Experience is the best teacher. But if your children need help and you don't give it, is that good parenting? And the Jewish value of tochacha, of delivering constructive criticism, it's not just parents and children, it's all of our relationships with other people. We are obligated to do this for all of the people in our lives and to listen to everyone in our lives when they attempt to make suggestions to us about our own behavior. Family, friends, coworkers even, all are obligated in tochacha, and as Jews, we are obligated to give and receive criticism as long as it's delivered in a kosher way, shall we say. Now, I'm not saying you should let yourself get walked all over or you should do the walking. No one is saying that, very much so. Remember, the rabbis have those guardrails in place. You can't nag someone over and over. You can't shame another person, even if what you're saying is right. You can't leave them resenting you. That's counter to your mission of helping them. It's why the rabbis say you cannot deliver tochacha, you cannot give somebody feedback if they are not in a place to hear you and receive that. What the Torah is teaching here with Jacob and his sons is what that podcaster actually said that I stumbled on New Year's Eve, what he was talking about. The goal of life is not to be comfortable. It's not to be surrounded by sycophants who nod and encourage every single decision and impulse that you have. Because that won't help you to grow. How are you going to grow if you do that? The goal of life, in Judaism at least, is to become the best version of you. And sometimes to do that, we all need, sometimes, a little loving critique. Shabbat shalom.